نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided us with many beautiful examples and models that we can look up to in every aspect of our lives. The history and tradition of Islam is rich with these examples. Over the next few days, we will inshaAllah be talking about some of these people and the things that we can look for in their lives that we may also adopt and make a part of our lives. The last of the kings of Banu Umayyah, his name was Sulaiman bin Abdul Malik. He was not the last in the chain of those kings, but he was the last in the chain of those kings who were passing the kingship down to their sons. And then he later made Umar bin Abdul Aziz the Khalifa, who was not his son. Sulaiman bin Abdul Malik came for Hajj, and as he was performing the rites of Hajj, he went and started looking for someone. He asked his men, where is he? So they said, he's over there praying. So Sulaiman went, and his two young boys were following him. They reached a place in Al-Masjid Al-Haram where they saw a man standing. Now this man who was standing in Salat did not look prominent from any angle, from any perspective. He was short, thin, he was not attractive, he had a flat nose, he was dark skinned, he had black skin, flat nose, short curly hair, and a topi, those sunnah caps that are sticking to his head, wearing a thick kind of clothing. So the king came and sat down, and there were many people seated behind him waiting for him to finish his salat so they could ask him questions. The king also sat down amongst those people. People volunteered to move people out of the way for the king, but he told his guards that, no, you step back. We are in such a place where everyone is equal. There is no difference between the king and the subject in this place, in this masjid. So when that man finished his salat, he turned around, started answering people's questions. The king also came. He said, Assalamu alaikum. The man replied to him evenly, did not give him too much importance, too much reverence. The king started asking him questions pertaining to Hajj, and the man responded and gave detailed answers to every question. The king continued asking until he was done, and then he told his boys, let's go. He thanked the man, got up and left. Now as they were leaving, people in Al-Masjid Al-Haram started announcing that, look, no one is allowed. These were the king's people. They were announcing that no one is allowed to give fatwa here in Masjid Al-Haram except for Ata ibn Abi Rabah. As long as Ata is here, no one is allowed to give fatwa, no one is allowed to tell anyone a verdict, a ruling on any matter of deen. And if he is not available, then Abdullah ibn Abi Najih. So the boys, as they were heading towards the place of Sa'i, they asked their father, they said, Father, your men just announced that no one can give fatwa here except for this Ata. And we saw you sitting with this man, he looked like a peasant, he looked like a slave, and you spent so much time and you gave him so much importance. He did not even give you importance, he hardly paid any attention to you. So Sulaiman said, my sons, that was Ata ibn Abi Rabah. That was the man. And this is why I tell you, he said to them, this is why I tell you, ta'allamul ilm, learn the knowledge of deen. فَإِنَّ بِالْعِلْمِ يَشْرُفُ الْوَضِيعُ وَيَنْبُهُ الْخَامِلُ. Because of knowledge, a person who is of lowly origins or of ordinary origins becomes a nobleman. And the one that nobody knows all of a sudden becomes the attention of everyone, so much so that Allah gives them even greater honor and respect than the kings themselves. So here you had the king humbling himself because he needed that person's knowledge. So who was this Ata ibn Abi Rabah? He was actually a boy who grew up in slavery. He spent his whole life in slavery. He was owned by a woman in Mecca. And as he was growing up, he had divided his time into 3 portions. One part of the day was doing khidmah, serving this woman who was his owner and looking after all her affairs, whatever it was that she needed. The second portion he had dedicated for his ibadah. He used to go into Al-Masjid Al-Haram and perform his salat, his dhikr, his tilawat. And the third portion was for learning knowledge, where he would sit with whoever he could find. And this was a time when there were in fact Sahaba present. So he would go to whichever Sahaba he could find and learn the knowledge of deen from them. And like this he did as he was growing up. He had extreme discipline in his schedule. He would not do anything until he was finished the work for his owner. And then right away he would dedicate himself to his worship, and then right away dedicate himself to his knowledge. And like this, day after day, week after week, year after year he spent. A time came when his master, she saw that he is so dedicated, so pious, and so disciplined. She said, I would like this boy to become a means of thawab, of ajr for myself. So one day she freed him. She said, go, you are free for the sake of Allah. I know what you're going to do with your life. I know that you are busy with such great things. You're looking for opportunities to go and do this. Go, I freed you for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So where did he go? He went straight to the masjid and he stayed there for some 20 odd years, spending time with the remainder of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, Abdullah ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Abbas, especially Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, and Abdullah ibn Zubayr, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, and other Sahaba. He spent the next 2 decades taking, absorbing, learning from them whatever he possibly could, until the time came when he was looked at by and large as the warith, as the heir of Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu in his knowledge of Quran and in his knowledge of deen. In fact, any book of tafsir that you pick up today that references the aqwal, references the positions, the statements of Sahaba and Tabi'een in their tafsir, at any text-based tafsir that you pick up today, it will always have the name of Ata ibn Abi Rabah over and over and over and over again. And you cannot pick up a book of hadith from the 6 authentic compilations or others. There is no book of hadith that has the chains of narration, but that you will find the name of Ata ibn Abi Rabah in every single one of them. And there is not one book of fiqh that sources the positions of the early jurists, the fuqaha from the time of Sahaba and Tabi'een, but that it will have the name of Ata ibn Abi Rabah over and over again. Who was he? He was a slave. Did not have money, did not have anything, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him this status because of his dedication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, dedication to the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And a time came where he would go to the kings and advise them. One person who was a young boy at that time, he says that I followed my father to the castle of Hisham bin Abdul Malik, another one of the Umayyad kings. And there was this man on a mule or on a donkey, and he looked so helpless and so poor and destitute that, and his appearance was so unattractive that when I looked at him, I started laughing at him, that what's that? So my father told me, be quiet, you don't know who this is. This is the greatest alim of all of Hijaz. He is the greatest alim today. Don't look at his appearance and be misled. Then what happened? They asked permission to go in, and the father went in with Ata. After some time they came out. The son insisted, tell me what happened. He said, look, I was only granted admittance into that, admission into that castle because of him, because of Ata ibn Abi Rabah. And when we got there, the king called him closer and closer and closer and closer until he made him sit down on his throne, right beside him and right with him. And then he said, tell me what I can do for you. How can I be of service to you? So Ata ibn Rabah started talking about the needs of the people. He said, O Khalifa, O King, the people of the Haramain are in poor conditions. You need to spend money on them. He said, done. He told his man, write it down. Then he said, what else can I do for you? He said, oh, the people of Najd and this area, they're in very poor conditions. You need to do something about them. He said, done. What else? Oh, the people of that area, the people of Ahlul Dhimma, the non-Muslims living under your rule, they're not being looked after. Fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, okay, done. Anything else? He said, yes. One more thing. Bring in yourself the fear of Allah and prepare for your life after death. فَإِنَّكَ خُلِقْتَ وَحْدَكَ وتموت وحدك وتحشر وحدك وتحاسب وحدك ولا أحد ممن معك يوم القيامة. You were created, you came into this world alone, you're going to die alone, you're going to be raised on the Day of Judgment alone, you're going to have to give account alone. All of these people that you see in your court, none of them are going to be with you. And this made the king break down into tears. He broke down crying. Ata ibn Rabah left him like that crying. He got up and he left. And after that, somebody came chasing after him with a bag of gold coins. The king says, please take this. He said, Hayhat, وَمَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ مِنْ أَجْرٍ إِنْ أَجْرِيَ إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ. What do you think I am? My reward is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this was an example of someone who gained not just fame. Fame is nothing. He gained respect, honor, reverence in the heart of everyone through his connection and his dedication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to follow in the footsteps of these people. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad.